Welcome to the greatest podcast in sports betting entertainment. My name is Tanner Kern, certified G, bona fide stud, and you can't teach that. In this right here, this is G Money Grant Mitchell. We are here breaking down everything going on in the sports world, including the Dallas Mavericks trading Luka Doncic, including the Super Bowl, and you can't teach that. Bada boom, man, the people in the room. G Money Grant Mitchell, how you doing?
I'm doing good, but not as good as you. For everybody out there who doesn't know, Tanner, yet again, a new background behind him because he is actually at the Super Bowl. And shout out to my guy. You were featured on the NFL, the official NFL social media pages.
I don't know if I was featured, but a question that I asked was featured. So I'm very happy about that. Mahomes asked him what it's like being the villain of the NFL. And he said, if winning football games means being the villain, we'll keep doing it. It was a pretty cold quote. Like when I heard it, I was like, damn, that was cold. So he said it multiple times though, in the sense of like, I was looking through Twitter to see like what people have asked him about being villain. He kind of says the same thing every time. So I think it just hit a little more in the Super Bowl. But he's also super nice. So it's like hard to be the villain, if that makes sense.
We're both players from both teams were there, right?
Yeah, players from both teams were there. So I talked to Saquon. I asked him, what it's like playing in front of Eagles fans. He was basically like their passion and saying, they're never going to let you. They're going to hold you accountable. Basically, he talked about that. And then I talked to a bunch of like smaller guys. You know who's the nicest dude in the world? Zach Bond.
Zach Bond. That doesn't surprise me, because he was not a big name at all. He was a special teams guy for a while, and all of a sudden this year he's a defensive player of the year candidate.
Yeah, he is. Like you talk about like just nice. You know what? I think the bottom line here, like when you're doing media and like players, I don't think like AJ Brown. So I was talking to AJ Brown, or tried to. I asked him like how his baseball career has helped shape his football career, because I didn't even know this. He played in the Padres organization, which is wild.
Yeah, he was a really good baseball player.
Yeah. So he basically was like tracking the ball over my shoulder. It wasn't the answer I was looking for, but right before that, and he was super nice to the media, but he didn't want to answer questions. So he's like, I don't like the media. I don't like doing this. You guys are here to have fun. Like, I'm here to win a football game. And then I had to go. So he was good. But like Zach Bond, I think, was just so happy to be in that moment because he never thought he would be in that moment. And that's why the smile on his face was through the roof the entire night, which is hard after an hour of getting the same question over and over again.
Did you get a sense from body language, nonverbals, anything like that, that a certain team or a certain player was maybe more or less confident than everyone else?
The Chiefs are some cocky SOBs. Like and again, they should be. And Mahomes, when he answers questions, he's very humble about it. But how they just walk and strut and like how they carry themselves, like they know they are the authority. I think the Eagles, the message behind the Eagles was like, we're coming to take what was taken from us in Super Bowl 57. I think they're a little more like if I had to pick a team that's going to come out on fire in the Super Bowl, I would say the Philadelphia Eagles. They seem more prepared and more mentally locked in, but the Chiefs just have that swagger that they know they're going to win. So it should be a really good game. Again, we go back to, if you didn't want Eagles Chiefs, I don't know how you're a football fan. Like, this is the game. And Grant, you're a Commies fan. Again, take that away. But this is the game we want to see. This is the one where we don't know what's going to happen.
When you say the Chiefs are cocky, do you mean that they are discounting the Eagles, or just we've been here, we've done this, and we know we can do it?
We've been here, we've done this, we know we can do it more than that. They're not discounting the Eagles. I think they know the Eagles are a really good team based on the vibe that I got, but it's how they walk in. Like, they introduce them, and they have that swagger to them. They have that, like, if you're watching wrestling, if you're watching WWE and the heel comes out of the storyline, that's what it feels like, and that's how they walk. And I don't know, maybe it's just me sensing that, but they walk with the swagger.
I'm excited to talk Super Bowl bets. I mean, we're going to talk about the game, but like prop bets and all that stuff, I think we do that on Friday. I'm excited because I got a couple hot takes that I got brewing up.
Yeah, I'm excited too. It's going to be a great game. I just want to, I got futures on both sides. I'll probably bet one side a little more, but I just want to see a really good game. Like, I don't want to sit there and watch a blowout or a bad game. I want to see. I want to, with the minute left in the fourth quarter, I'd like to not know who's going to win the game.
I wonder if there's a bet where you can say the winning team will win by 3 or fewer points without picking which team it will be.
The winning team will win by 3 or fewer. There probably is. I was looking through like Caesars the other day because I've been dabbling in Caesars a little more. If you guys want Caesars promo codes, we got them at WSN. Got them. Make sure you check them out. WSN.com, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I love the Super Bowl betting. I really do. There are too many bets for the Super Bowl. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but I can't even find the bets that I want to find because there's too many bets.
Yeah, I forget what the name of the term is, but it's basically you walk into a restaurant and you have a menu with 50 different items versus you walk into a restaurant and they have 7. It's easier to make a choice in the restaurant with 7 because you think you want more options, but when you're presented with them, you're overwhelmed and you don't know what to take.
Yeah, you can only bet so much. Maybe if you got like endless funds, like you bet a ton on the Super Bowl as far as like sprinkling your money around. But like, I don't want to bet $5 here, $5 there. Like that doesn't excite me. I'd rather have more money on smaller bet or on like a smaller number of bets. I did bet my favorite bet for the Super Bowl. I think that I found on Caesars -135. It was a tie to happen after the 0-0 mark. So once after 0-0, you have to have a tie. I think that's a great bet. I think this is going to be a tight game. I really look forward to seeing if that one hits.
Yeah, I saw Bet365 has some Swifty specials. I saw DraftKings, I believe, has number specials. And I forget exactly what they were, but just making this up. For example, it would be like Jalen Hurts, who's number 1 touchdown in every quarter. Patrick Mahomes to finish with exactly 15 rushing yards. It was stuff like that.
Yeah, which again, they must clean up. The books must clean up on these Super Bowl props.
I mean, they clean up. It's sports books clean up, period. And so the Super Bowl, the most watched, the most bet event of the year, you're going to get more casual fans, which means more casual bettors and stuff like this. The coin toss, a couple of books are finally offering the coin toss with +100 odds, but some are still offering it -105 aside. And people are going to take that just to bet on it, even though it's plain as day. Coin toss is 50-50, but -105 is like, I don't know, 53%, 53%.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's a night where like casual betting just takes full circle because all those like prop sheets that people used to do before betting was legal, like these are just getting converted into like $5 on this, $5 on that, $5 on this, and then most of them don't hit. So it adds up over time. But we love the sports books here. We do. We want to take some money from them, but they're giving money out on WSN.com. Grant, tell the people why they need WSN.com.
Yeah, absolutely. WSN.com, the World Sports Network. It is the place to be if you are into sports betting in any shape or facet. Tanner, myself, and a bunch of people on a team of experts, we talk about games. We share our favorite betting picks that includes player props and parlays. We review the latest and breaking news like that Luka Doncic trade, which we are going to be talking about. And like Tanner mentioned earlier, we've got promo codes there. So bonus bets, safety nets, deposit matches, all that great stuff to make your sports betting journey a more profitable and exciting experience. You will find it at WSN.com.
That's right. So, Grant, big news in the NBA world. The NBA, people started talking about it this week. That was good. I think that was the best thing that came out of the 2 trades we saw, but primarily the Luka Doncic trade, that people actually talked about the NBA and people debated the NBA. So that was fun. You are not a proponent of Luka Doncic being traded to the Los Angeles Lakers like most people. I will let you go first, and then I will give you some rebuttal points. Not that I disagree with you, but there are some things that I think need to be talked about more that people aren't discussing.
So taking away the actual trade, what it means for the Mavericks, what it means for the Lakers, whatever. This was a failed operation. Nico Harrison, the general manager of the Dallas Mavericks, only called the Los Angeles Lakers about Luka. The San Antonio Spurs are on record saying they will give up anything in the world. They might send Greg Popovich over if they could pair Luka with Victor Wembanyama. The Houston Rockets are another team in Texas, the same state, who have a ton of assets, young players, draft capital, and who believe they can contend for a championship. They're second in the Western Conference right now. You don't think they would have given up Jalen Green, who they didn't want to commit to, Dylan Brooks, Atari Eason, and some picks for Luka Doncic? They absolutely would have done that. Paul George fetched 4 first-round picks, a pick swap, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The Brooklyn Nets got 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. The Utah Jazz got 5 first-round picks for Rudy Gobert. They also got 3 players in that deal. They got Jared Vanderbilt, Malik Beasley, and Patrick Beverley with the 5 first-round picks. So you're telling me the best the Mavericks can do for Luka Doncic, who is 25 years old, who has more first-team All-NBA appearances than Steph Curry and Nikola Jokic? You're telling me the best they can do is Anthony Davis, who's a great player, but he's never been as good as Luka. He's also 6 years older than him, and he's injury-prone. Max Christie, who an ascending young player, but who averages about 8 points per game, and a first-round pick 4 years down the road, which probably won't even be worth anything because it's coming from a team that now has Luka Doncic on it. That's probably going to be pick 25 to 30. So it's basically a second-round pick at that point. And the NBA draft is not like the NFL draft. The great players are usually gone in the first 4 picks, maybe 5. So getting a pick in that 25 to 30 range means nothing. So again, we haven't even started talking about what this means for the actual basketball team, just the order of operations and how this was handled. Rob Pelinka, the Lakers general manager, also apparently the Mavs wanted Dalton Knecht and multiple first-round picks. Rob Pelinka told Nico Harrison, if we're going to keep this a secret like you want me to, then I can only give you 1 first-round pick because I don't know if Luka's going to re-sign with us. And the Mavs agreed to it. They just got played at every step of this process. And I don't understand how, if you're the owner, you don't fire the general manager right there, honestly.
So when Jason Kidd was sitting there at the press conference, I kind of felt bad because he didn't know about the trade until, quote unquote, the 11th hour. I was thinking in terms of what you were saying before, and this is one of the points I wanted to discuss. Like, okay, the Rockets, he could have went to the Spurs, but if you were the Mavericks too in formulating this trade, you needed to send him to a place that you knew he was going to re-sign. Los Angeles was one of those places where you can't necessarily say Houston or San Antonio were one of those places. So that was the first point that I think it was a failed operation as far as how the trade went down. But when you were shopping him, you were limited in your options and where you wanted to shop him because you needed to get him to the place to re-sign. But they also could have got more elsewhere still, despite the fact that he probably wouldn't have re-signed in Houston or San Antonio.
Yeah, the Mavericks, the whole thing about him re-signing there, that matters to the team that is trading for him. But again, let's use a team like the Rockets, or I don't see how they could have made the salaries work, but just purely hypothetically, let's say the Phoenix Suns, because they're doing everything they can to win right now. They might not have even cared if Luka re-signed, because they could say, we have, we get Luka now, that gives us a 1.5 year runway. We can win a championship in the next 2 postseasons. You could have gotten an insane pull for him. I mean, again, Mikal Bridges was worth 5 first-round picks. You don't think that the Mavericks could have gotten more than that for Luka Doncic, who's 25 years old? And all this stuff about Luka being overweight, being 270 pounds, conditioning issues. Luka is not a model. He doesn't have LeBron's body. He doesn't have Giannis's body, right? He's not going to be on the cover of Men's Health. We get all of that. But last year, Luka played more minutes than anybody in the world on the basketball court. A guy who has conditioning issues should not be able to do that. Luka was out there on one leg hitting game winners over Rudy Gobert in the playoffs to get his team to the postseason. He averaged 29, 10, and 9 with an injured leg last year. He averaged 35 points during the regular season. That's the highest since James Harden, which was the highest since Kobe, which was the highest since Michael Jordan. So he's done all of this. And again, he is only 25 years old. He's made 5 first-team All-NBA appearances. You can't make this trade. It doesn't matter what the conditioning issues are. Luka is far and away a better player than Zion Williamson, and the Pelicans are still sticking by Zion. And his health and conditioning issues are actually tangible. They're much more significant than what's going on with Luka here.
So my biggest thing here with Luka, it's the fans. I think they didn't account for how the fans would react to this trade. Like I put myself in the situation if Jason Tatum was traded, like that would really rupture the Boston Celtics fan base. So this trade with Luka is just, I think it's tough for the fans. I think from a basketball perspective, as far as not having to pay him, and this is me playing devil's advocate here. You're the Dallas Mavericks. Kyrie's getting older. You do have a nice young core there, but Kyrie's getting older. You didn't win last year with that group. You weren't close to winning last year with that group because the Boston Celtics were that much better than you. You snuck past teams that you were probably not as good as, and you don't like paying Luka. If you pay Luka now, your assets for other areas of your team are going to suffer. And I think you have to keep the megastar in Dallas. I think that's 100% correct. But at the same time, too, you didn't win last year. You had a good team. Like, is paying Luka going to afford you the luxury of bringing in enough pieces to get you over the hump and take down the top teams?
Well, so I want to push back on here. The Mavericks were 3 wins away from being world champions.
100%.
Their series with the Celtics. The Celtics were the better team. There's no doubt about it. But I don't think that had anything to do with Luka, and I don't think it had anything to do with Kyrie. One of their biggest issues, which Boston exposed, was Dallas was a very corner 3 heavy team. That was the key. That was what made them so successful. That and their rim runs. So Boston crowded. For what they did was they crowded the interior, so they took away the lob threat, and they closed out hard to the corners. They encouraged PJ Washington and Derrick Jones Jr. to move up above the break and take threes there, which is where they were inefficient. That's a roster construction thing. So what did they do in the offseason? They go out, they sign Klay Thompson, a guy who can shoot from anywhere on the perimeter, a guy who can add movement shooting. And honestly, if they have him in the finals last year, that's a whole different series because Klay completely changes what Boston is able to do defensively. And this is what I don't understand more than anything. If you're upset with Luka, okay. You think you want to move on from him? Okay. Move off of him a year in advance, like most teams do with players that they don't want to re-sign or that they don't think will re-sign. What was the point in going out and getting Klay and Quentin Grimes and Najee Marshall and some of these other guys? The Mavericks were playing good basketball this year. I don't want that to be lost on anyone. The Mavericks were really good. They've been hit by some injuries, sure, but who's to say they weren't going to go on a run through the playoffs again this year? You know, they beat the Oklahoma City Thunder last year. They beat the Minnesota Timberwolves last year. They took down good teams, and they had a better roster this time around. I don't understand why you would blow this thing up at the trade deadline.
You don't want to pay Luka and you want to get ahead of it, but they didn't probably get ahead of it as much as they could have. And again, it goes back to you can only shop him to so many places knowing he's going to resign to get those assets. But Pelinka did a great job. I mean, he was awesome if he talked Dalton Connect out of the trade, more first round picks out of the trade. But if you're the Mavericks and for whatever, like we need to put ourselves in the Mavericks shoes from the outside perspective, it does not make sense. It probably doesn't make sense from the interior perspective, but I need to give the Mavericks credit in the sense of you just traded away your face of the franchise, whether it was wrong, whether it was right. Like just the balls to make the move to do it, knowing the backlash was coming and knowing this is a move that puts your job on the line. They must really believe it in there, which is the reason I can sit back and say, Luka is unbelievable. He's amazing. But for them to want to openly trade Luka for what they got for him in this spot, and I know they didn't want to pay him, that's kind of like red flaggish a little bit. And maybe it's just a total lack of knowledge of the game from their perspective. But like, don't you agree that's a little like concerning if they're willing to do this at this point?
I hear what you're saying, and it makes sense. It's actually interesting the ripple effect this has had around the league because some owners are furious because the Mavs didn't even give them a chance to trade for Luka. But on the other hand, they're also extremely happy for the reason you said. What have we heard for the last, really since LeBron made the decision to go to Miami? It's been an era of player empowerment. It's been a player-driven league. This move gave power back to the owners. The Mavericks took more than $100 million away from Luka. He was going to sign for, I think, 5 years, $345 million. Now he can only sign for like 5 years, $229 million because he's not eligible. You can't sign the Supermax with a different team than the one you earned it with. So from that perspective, like it is good for the owners, yes, but it just seems like gross negligence to me. The owner, Nico Harrison, the GM, said when he called the owner laughed at him. If you look at Jason Kidd's face, he doesn't know what to think. Well, I'm sure that he knows what he's thinking, but he's not going to say it out loud. The players were shocked. Luka was shocked. Luka just bought a $15 million house last week. He was supposedly crying when he heard the news. So nobody expected this. And Nico Harrison said that defense wins championships. It's obviously a shot at Luka's defense in the finals. You get Anthony Davis. I get all that, sure. But I don't think anybody, and that includes now Nico Harrison, realized just how much Luka carried this franchise for the last few years. Yeah, PJ Washington helped. Yes, Kyrie helped. Klay Thompson's going to do some things for them, sure. But I don't think this team's getting out of the first round. And you're going to go back and you're going to revisit this because the Mavs are going to stink next year. They're going to stink the year after that. And they barely have any first-round draft picks. They have their pick in 2026, 2030, and they have the Lakers pick in 2029. So they're going to be worse now. All of their players are old. AD is going to be 32 next month. Kyrie's going to be 33 next month. Clay's going to be 35 next week. So they're going to be worse now. Their players are old. They're going to be bad in the future, and they don't have their picks. So I don't see the move short-term or long-term.
So let me counter it one more time with a different mindset here. If you're the owner, if you're the GM, and you're looking at this team, and you're looking at Luka, and they obviously had their concerns about Luka, or they wouldn't have traded him. So that we need to get that on the table. And again, I give credit to the Mavericks for trading Luka because that is a franchise-altering decision. That's one that the fans are going to hate you. That's one, if the Mavericks don't make a decent run the playoffs, we're going to look back and say you were an idiot, as people are saying right now. With that being said, maybe if you are the Mavericks and you're looking at this, like, I don't want to pay Luka. I want to try to get by now, and then I want to try to rebuild with more money. Like, what do you think if you were sitting down with Nico Harrison, he said that to you?
I mean, I understand the thought process. I do, but this isn't a video game. You know, they don't have a ton of assets to trade in the future. So, like, hypothetically, let's say they're slated to get the 6th pick and the first pick in the draft looks like a generational prospect. They don't have the assets to move up and get him. No player is going to want to sign with them in free agency because of what they just did to Luka. So they've shot themselves in the foot in nearly every respect. And if you look at the true generational talents in the NBA, there aren't many of them. How many of them have walked through the doors of Dallas? 2. Dirk Nowitzki, Luka Doncic. Dirk was there his whole career. They made sure not to let him go. Mark Cuban once said, I would divorce my own wife before I traded Luka Doncic, and now they traded him. Realistically, just looking at how the NBA goes, it's probably going to be 15 to 20 years before another generational player goes to the Mavericks. And so, yeah, you can say you want to rebuild for the future, and maybe you want to do what the Brooklyn Nets did a couple of years ago, where it's like D'Angelo Russell and Jared Dudley and good vibes, and they shock everyone because they make the first round and they lose. Maybe you want to do what the Houston Rockets are doing right now, which is defensive team. They're playing really well, probably going to finish with the second best record in the West, and then maybe they get to the second round. All that's great, but you had a guy who just took you to the NBA Finals on your roster, and you let him walk.
I'm surprised ownership didn't veto the trade.
The old NBA commissioner, David Stern, I think he would have vetoed this trade. Chris Paul was traded to the Lakers, and he was going to team up with Kobe Bryant, and David Stern vetoed it. And that's how Chris Paul ended up going to the Lakers. Chris Paul and Kobe, Luka and LeBron, we're going to say that's not like the same type of thing there?
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar. It was if I'm looking at it from the outside perspective and I'm trying to figure it out from the Mavericks point of view. Obviously, they didn't want to pay Luka Doncic a supermax contract. That is the core of this. And you really can't shop Luka Doncic, you know? Like, I don't think you can put out a statement saying, hey, guys, we're going to trade Luka and let's take bidders for it, because that's going to destroy your team in the process, because maybe you don't even trade him. So, like, you had to make it secret. You just didn't get enough picks. You put yourself in a position to still make the first round this year. After that, who knows what's going to happen, kind of thing. It was a bad trade from the outside perspective. I think the logic from where they're coming from, like, they want to probably rebuild and not pay Luka, like, that logic makes sense. But if that was truly the case, they needed to get more picks and more assets to work with.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. Dallas is going to be awesome defensively. They'll be the best interior defensive team in the league. Anthony Davis has said he loves playing the four. He loves playing with the center alongside of him. So you're going to have Anthony Davis, Derek Lively, and PJ Washington on your front line. Like, that's going to be tough to score on. But I don't think their offense is going to be that great either. And their perimeter defense is probably going to be pretty bad.
Luka must pound a lot of beers. Like, when you really think about it, this man must drink like nonstop.
I mean, for his frame, he's overweight. He's been overweight for a long time, but 270 pounds isn't crazy. He's a thick guy. He's 6'7", 6'8". You know, he can support that.
But it's not even about like it's not even about what he looks like to me. Like, it's also your actions off the floor. Like, I can show up fat, but if I'm delivering and I have like a positive, not positive, like he wants to compete. We saw that in the finals last year. But you know, like the video of the assistant GM pulling the beer out of his hand after, like, I don't know what possessed them to trade Luka. So there has to be something there more than his weight that, like, we don't know.
Well, you know what the best thing in the world for somebody you're worried about their conditioning is? Go be teammates with LeBron James.
Yeah, LeBron's gonna. I think this is probably the best thing for Luka's career. Like, Luka should be disappointed that they cost him $116 million and he has to move from Dallas. But if he wants to win a championship, even in the post LeBron era, going to the Lakers was better for his career than being in Dallas. But it cost him a shit ton of money.
It did, but like you said, he's probably, just because the Lakers are so poorly run, but somehow they continue to wind up getting these great players. You know, that they did nothing to deserve LeBron, and he showed up, and then he forced them to trade for Anthony Davis, and Luka just fell into their hands. A few years down the road, when LeBron's retired and it's Luka's team, they're probably going to get someone else to sign with them, and it's going to be a huge brand. Luka's already international because he's not American, obviously. Playing for the Lakers, he's going to get an even larger American fan base. He'll get a ton of endorsements. And like you said, it's going to be the best thing for his career. He's going to go to LA. LeBron's going to teach him how to take care of himself. Anthony Davis, as much as we love to joke about, you know, how injury prone he is, he's been an Iron Man for the last 2 seasons. He's barely gotten injured. And I think a huge credit, share of that credit goes to LeBron.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is either the move that like makes his career, and he has all the tools to have it make his career, or it just destroys his career. And he says, F this, I got all the money in the bank, I don't give a shit. Like, that could be a mentality too. We don't know, but like, he has all the tools to make this the best move of his career. If it's not, he might have the negative attitude. We'll see what happens there. But he said he doesn't want to play. How long does he want to play till? 30s, early 30s?
Someone asked him if they could see him playing to LeBron's age, and he said no.
I mean, LeBron's age is crazy.
Yeah,
LeBron's great. I wouldn't judge it off that, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what the Mavs do in the playoffs. It'd be cool to get a Mavs-Lakers series. I don't think we would get it.
Yeah, I don't think we would either, but it would be cool. The Lakers still have moves to make. I got to say that, because right now Jackson Hayes is their starting center and they don't have a backup. So they've got to go out. I've got 4 guys I want them to target: Nick Claxton, Walker Kessler, Robert Williams, Miles Turner. I think any of those 4 fit their needs very well. I also think they have to bench Rui, just with the way that everything works. I think the starting lineup has to be LeBron, Luka, Austin Reeves, who could be in trouble here because Reeves, he has a similar skill set to LeBron in terms of how they approach the game. And Luka and LeBron are nearly identical. So like, Reeves' skills are a little redundant. If he's not shooting better than 40% from 3, then I think they might look at moving Reeves in the summer. But so Luka, LeBron, Reeves, I think you've got to put Dorian Finney-Smith in the starting lineup to be your main defender, because that Max Christie was that guy and he was involved in this deal too. And then you put the center out there, whoever it is.
I want Austin Reeves in Boston so bad. That's my guy.
I don't know where he would play.
I don't think there's room for him.
Yeah, I guess looking down the road when Drew Holiday's a couple years older, but the way they use Drew Holiday is so significant. Like, they have Drew Holiday guard Joel Embiid sometimes. That's his primary assignment. And Reeves is not a great defender. So, I mean, Reeves is a good player. I'm sure you wouldn't be upset at getting him, but it would just change how Boston works.
Did you see that comeback the other night, Grant? Big comeback for the
26
Celtics.
points against the Sixers.
Tatum just woke up. Well, Tatum's been really good.
I mean, Philadelphia should not have. They should never have won that game. They're double-digit underdogs.
Yeah, but we don't play with scrubs. Like we just push them off until we say, okay, now we got to wake up. Big game tonight, though, Grant. Cavs, Celtics, Cavs. Yeah. Celtics are going to destroy them tonight. Destroy them.
I don't know. They got a mental block against the Cavs.
They're going to destroy them, and then we'll destroy them in the playoffs too. But we won't get them till the Eastern Conference Finals, anyways. All right, Grant. Super Bowl time. 30 minutes into the show already. That was a nice Luka talk. We'll talk a little Super Bowl today, guys. And then on Thursday, we'll be back. We'll give you best bets, props. We'll look at all the fun stuff, Gatorade, national anthem, all that good stuff. But Grant, has your opinion on this game changed at all from last week to now?
My opinion has not changed. The Eagles have the most talented roster, top to bottom in the NFL. The Chiefs are going to win this game. If the Eagles go out and do it, then credit to them. And I will say they deserved it, most likely. But until the Chiefs lose, I'm not going to pick them to lose. Patrick Mahomes, 17-3 in his playoff career. 2 of those losses were to Tom Brady, 1 to Joe Burrow. Never lost to an NFC team in the postseason, which means he's never lost forgot Brady moved to the Bucs. But aside from Brady, he's never lost to an NFC team in the playoffs. I know they're favored, but even as an underdog, he's unreal. He wins like 80% of games. He trails in at one point. And this defense, we talk so much about how good Philadelphia's defense is, and we should because they're awesome. But while they were first in points allowed, the Chiefs were 4th. And we've seen the Chiefs get these stops whenever they need to. The Steve Spagnuolo blitz, which you would have never expected the corner coming off the right side. They knew Josh Allen had liked to scramble right, so they bring the pressure in his face. Last year in the Super Bowl in overtime, it was 3rd down and 7 from like the 10-yard line. They bring the blitz. Brock Purdy throws an incompletion. That leads to the field goal. That leads to the Chiefs scoring a touchdown and winning the game. We've just seen this script play out so many times. And I know the Eagles fans are going to bring up the slippery field the last time they played in the Super Bowl and how they were a referee call away. Well, you were also a Jalen Hurts fumble 6 away. We were a 3rd down conversion here away. We were a touchdown catch away from. There's so many variables in a game. And the reality is that if you want to make this 10-13, if you want to make this 42-41, the Chiefs are going to adapt and they're going to win because that's what they do. They have always done that. They will continue to do it. And the last thing I'll say here is you never want to give the better coach more time to prepare. You never, ever want to do that. Andy Reid is the best coach in NFL history off of a bye. Both teams are off of a bye, but with 2 weeks, I trust Andy Reid to be more prepared than I do Nick Sirianni.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing that I got from just listening to some of the players and their media stuff and seeing the clips online. It was, we trust Steve Spagnuolo. Like they are so locked in on what they need to do on the defensive side of the ball. The offense, we know the offense is going to be fine because they have Patrick Mahomes. But defensively, they are so sound and they are so prepared for everything that they're doing. And that's where the difference is. They're teams that win close games. Like, again, when you have success, it just builds confidence and continues to build and build and build. And the Chiefs are the GOATs of winning close games. They just find ways to do it every week. And when you repeat that, you have more success and you get in those situations. I said the whole season, like, they haven't covered a spread, but they've been in just dogfights all year and they've come out on top in every single one. So when we get to the playoffs and we're playing in close games every week, they are going to be more prepared for those games. And that's what we've seen this year.
Last 2 Super Bowls, everybody's talking about the Eagles have Saquon Barkley, and they should. Saquon has been unreal. He was first in my MVP ladder. I'm trying to remember my own rankings. 2 years ago when these teams played in the Super Bowl, Chiefs and Eagles, Miles Sanders, who's nowhere near as good as Saquon, don't get me wrong, but Miles Sanders ran for 1,300 yards, 11 touchdowns during the regular season. In the Super Bowl, he had 7 carries for 21 yards. Last year, now this is the big one, Christian McCaffrey ran for 1,500 yards and 14 touchdowns. In the Super Bowl, he ran 22 times for 80 yards. I'm not saying it's a guarantee that the Chiefs shut down Saquon Barkley. What I'm saying is they have played back-to-back Super Bowls against run-focused teams, one with that year a good running back, and last year the best running back in the world, and both times they shut them down. So I'm not going into this game assuming it's a foregone conclusion that Saquon is going to be able to run the ball. He very well might, but I'm just not making that assumption until I see it happen.
Yeah, definitely. Steve Spagnuolo is going to target that part of their offense. Like, he's going to try to eliminate Saquon Barkley if he can do it. And I'll say this, if the Eagles are going to win this game, it needs to be a blowout. Like, they need to blow them off the field. If we're a one-score game in the fourth quarter, either side, the Chiefs are going to win the game.
Jalen Hurts also, I don't believe Jalen Hurts has a turnover since week 11. And I think despite him not having lots of passing yards and stuff like that, not even really throwing the ball all that much, I think that's part of why he's still been able to play very well, is he just has not turned the ball over. He's suddenly become the best quarterback in the NFL at protecting the ball. If they turn the ball over, that completely shifts the calculus of this game.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to come down to turnovers. It's going to come down to how well the Chiefs can stop the Eagles' run game, and then can you make Patrick Mahomes make a mistake, because he never makes mistakes. Like, that's what it comes down to. And if the Eagles can force a few turnovers, run the ball effectively, they probably win the game. But I'm just at the point where until we see the Chiefs lose, you can't bet against them. And all the people that say the game's rigged and bet against them, that's what's wild to me.
You want to hear something crazy? Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs versus number one pass defenses, which the Eagles have this year. He's 3-0. His team scored an average of 37 points. He has a 71 completion percentage. He threw 2.7 touchdowns per game, and he had a passer rating of 109. All of those ranked first. That's against number one defenses.
Crazy. He's that guy. And again, it's like last week. Chiefs can't score. They come out. They put up 32 on the Bills. They scored.
Season high in first half points.
They can do whatever they want. Like that, I couldn't stand all the write-ups last week where it was like, yeah, the Chiefs, this is the worst Chiefs team we've ever seen, blah, 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 blah. They can play any style they want to play. They're winning. In the end of the day, winning is what matters. They were 15-2, 15-1 with their starters on the field, and people can make the case that this is a bad Chiefs team, which is insane.
Yeah. The Eagles are really good. I don't want anybody out there listening to think that me or Tanner are saying they're bad. They're a very, very good team. But it's just, if you tell me that I'm going to go outside one day and the sky is going to be green, well, I'm not going to believe you until I see it. I have seen the Chiefs constantly win these types of games. So I'm not going to believe that an underdog is going to beat them until I see it.
Yep. But anyways, guys, Thursday, props. Thursday, game picks. Thursday, ultimate NFL show.
Friday.
We used to do Monday, Thursday, so I think I always have Monday, Thursday in my head. If you guys are an OG Ride the Line listener, you know we were Monday, Thursday. Now we're Tuesday, Friday. A little more confusing for me, but Friday, ultimate sports betting show for the NFL.
We got to give the people their weekend entertainment. That's what it is.
Yeah, we got to give the people the weekend entertainment. It's going to be a fun one on Friday, guys. So make sure you join us then. Grant, take us out of here.
Guys, that is going to do it for this episode of Ride the Line. Before you get out of here, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button as well. Jump in the comments. Let us know what you think of that Luka trade and if you have any early thoughts on the Super Bowl. Tanner and I will catch you all for this Super Bowl extravaganza show on Friday.